What's up, guys? Busy show. We're going to jump right into things after we remind the good people of the world that FanDuel is unquestionably, undoubted, the #1 sportsbook in America. Right now, brand new customers get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a single $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. So if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there is literally no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is so easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and much, much more. So visit FanDuel.com/UCSS to kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, an official partner of the NFL, an official partner of the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. And yesterday we had Jordan Kessler submit a winning ticket of a nice little 3-part parlay on Thursday Night Football. He had the Buffalo money line, under 42.5 total points, and the Tampa Bay spread. He hit it, and he turned $19.5 into $111.
Attaboy.
Essentially 5-1 odds. So shout out to Jordan Kessler for winning. You could be the next winner if you join FanDuel as well. So with that, Jay, let's talk a little quarterback action.
Yeah.
Brissett, no calls, and Deshaun, will he be Deshaun again this year?
Let's go to Jason for the Brissett no calls, because we really haven't talked about that on the show. Yesterday we talked about the fact that we thought that they would be calling. What do you have on that?
I talked to Diana Rossini, who works with us at The Athletic. Asked Diana if she would reach out to Washington.
Very plugged in Washington, by the way, she is.
And she said, I already have, and Browns haven't called. Yeah. So that tells me Brissett's not happening. And I wrote that the other day. If you're going to make the Jacoby move, you make it now. Like, you call him Sunday night, Monday. You get him here Tuesday, pass a physical, get on the practice field Wednesday. He plays Sunday. That's the beauty of Jacoby. That's one of the big pluses of him. He's a plug-and-play guy. You trade for him Monday, he can play on Sunday. But the fact that they haven't called yet tells me they're not going to, and they're going to roll with what they've got.
Now, they could always, see more of P.J. Walker on Sunday that they've already seen and come to the conclusion that, this probably isn't going to be a long-term bridge.
But they should know that already.
There's
that's nothing that should happen on that field Sunday that should sway you one way or the other. You know it. Now, the hope is, and I mentioned this before we started on the show, PJ's had, I think, 4 practices prior to this week. He had the full week of San Francisco, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and he had Wednesday last week before Deshaun came back Thursday, Friday. So he's had 4 practices, essentially. Right. And now with a full week this week, maybe he could be incrementally better. But you know what he is. There should be nothing that happens on that field Sunday that says, oh, my God, can you believe that? We got to get somebody else in here.
The couple of practices he had this week isn't going to turn him into this, all of a sudden, perfect answer at quarterback.
It's obviously a small sample size this season, and in his career he hasn't played a ton. But he's been the worst quarterback in the NFL this year. Not amongst the worst. He's been the worst quarterback in the league. So incrementally better is not good enough.
Agreed.
And if the Browns don't do anything to address this position, which so far they have done absolutely nothing, obviously, but sit on their hands, it's a disgrace. I have defended Kevin Stefanski, and to some degree I've defended Andrew Berry. If they sit on their hands and have to go with PJ, this idea that, we're gonna get Deshaun back here, they have to do business as if Deshaun Watson's not going to play the rest of the year. And if he does, fine. If he can, great. But you have to do business right now as if he's not going to play, because you sat him for a month and he looked completely useless when he went on the field. So what's another couple of weeks going to do?
Well, it's a 4 to 6 week injury, and he said yesterday that's just a framework. That doesn't mean that's necessarily the case. The only way that this makes sense to me is if you believe he's coming back for Baltimore. And then because you're 4-2, you have 2 NFC opponents between now and then. If you feel like, hey, if we go 1-1 on these, whatever, we can beat Arizona at home with P.J. Walker, and we get him back for Baltimore. I just don't know how you can count on that. What have you seen that makes you think you can count on that, and that he can survive if he does come back for Baltimore? What assurance do you have that he's going to be able to play the rest of the year?
To that point, if you listen closely to what Deshaun's saying, he's not giving any indication of when he'll be back.
No, none.
In fact, here's what we know for sure he has said this year. I don't think I'll be 100% at any point this year.
Right.
Can we play the clip from Bernie yesterday? This is Bernie Kosar, who had the exact same injury, talking about the likelihood Deshaun Watson returns to 100% this year. Let's play it.
It's a micro tear. It's a micro tear. It's not getting better. So Deshaun's problem is whether he even waits 3 or 4 weeks, Jay, when he comes back, they're going to jam him into the ground, and it'll probably still become a rotator cuff surgery that is a full rotator in December and January that would inhibit him being ready in August of next year. So it's not about his pain. it's not about him not wanting to play. You could see he wanted to play. I could see actually me and him talking the coaches into him, saying, hey, I'm capable of playing. I can make the plays. But flat out, when P.J. Walker in the fourth quarter had to hit that fade on 2nd and 10 and drop it over the corner head before the safety killed him, P.J. Walker's 100% arm was barely strong enough to make that throw that helped the Browns win the game.
Yeah.
When Deshaun was rolling left, it wasn't because he wasn't tough. It wasn't because he was turning it down. His shoulder involuntarily switched and turned it down and didn't allow him to execute the throw.
That
And
is the thing that you talk about, that involuntary shutdown.
It's shut
the
it
muscle
down.
knows that if you exert, you're going to have extreme pain.
Right.
So
and you
essentially,
can't
they have no
get it.
chance.
And it's shut down, so he has no chance.
No
That's
chance for him to be
exactly
100% this year. That's out the window.
correct.
Right? I mean,
and
that's
if it's again, I haven't seen the MRI, but if it is a micro tear, it's not guaranteed that heals in 6 to 8 weeks.
That's kind of where we've been operating all along. You know, when we reached out to the surgeons that we reached out to, they said that this is one of those deals that there's a better chance that you completely tear it if you keep using it. And the definition that we looked up from the AMA and the surgical board that they used said that, you know, this is something that it's almost like it's got to be a complete shutdown for that length of time, and he can't do that midseason.
Yeah, I did a blog about 3-4 weeks ago. I said, listen, if you're expecting to see the Deshaun Watson that you wanted to see in 2023, it's not going to be happening this year. There's too many hits that quarterbacks take on a daily and weekly basis that he's not going to be able to take. He didn't even get driven into the ground. He kind of got pushed and he landed, put his arm down, and kind of hurt his shoulder more. But for me, I look at this as a body of work for the front office and the coaching staff. It's just not about what you do on the field and how you call plays. It's about what you do with your roster management. The roster management was flawed. Even back when they were Baker in 2021, when they went through this thing every single week, is Baker hurt? Was he not hurt? You know what happened with that. You go back to next year, you got Deshaun Watson out for the 11 games, but you still had people saying, "Hey, are you going to upgrade at defensive tackle? Are you going to give us some receivers?" They did nothing. We talked about it. Linebackers, receivers, and defensive linemen. They did nothing on that year, and we talked about it, and we coined the gentleman's punt that year. We come back this year, they did upgrade the defensive line. They did try to do some things at wide receiver. But you sit here at 4-2, you're in a position where you could go 5-2 and possibly even have a game set up against the Cardinals where you can be 6-2 in the driver's seat, so to speak. But you look like you don't have any intentions on upgrading from P.J. Walker. Your running backs are dinged up and hurt. We haven't heard anything on the front as far as running backs are concerned. And most people still think, Mary Kay Cabot says, hey, we need a receiver.
So you can't fix every position in the season.
But you can pick one.
Well, you can pick one, but it's unfair to bring up all the you can't fix everything in the middle of the season.
But
teams have injuries.
Quarterback, you might fix the wide receiver problem.
But we haven't heard rumblings about any of it.
Well, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. But if they don't do it, if they don't do anything to address the team needs, I got a big problem.
Back to Bernie's point, how confident are you guys, if you had to put a percentage on it, that we'll see the 100% Deshaun Watson at some point this year?
Zero.
Yeah, I'm the same. I'm exactly the same spot.
Yeah.
And because of that, I don't know that. I imagine they're assessing the same thing inside the building, and they've got much more information than we have.
Of course.
Right.
They might have doctors telling them, saying, "Look, is it a micro tear? Yeah, it's not extreme. Give him 3 to 4 weeks of complete inactivity, no throwing the football." And I think he got 100%. Deshaun Watson. Maybe that's the case, and we just don't have that information.
But they already did that. It didn't work.
No, I'm talking about from Sunday's game. You're right. They tried that, and it didn't work. I think they were fooled by the notion that he said he was ready to go. Bernie's point on the rollout interception is so dead on. You guys have all had some kind of an injury before, and you know that you have a limit that you can reach to before the pain really kicks in. That pain is the message to the brain, stop doing what you're doing.
Right.
You're going to make this worse. And Bernie's felt that pain. He knows it. We've all felt it. You don't even think about it. I love that Bernie said it's an involuntary response. The muscle saying, no, we can't go where you want to go right now, so we're not going to.
Yeah.
And if you just take a little bit of sauce, as Bernie calls it, off the ball, those completions become interceptions.
Yes.
I am for putting him on IR, doing it today, so the clock starts for the Seattle game, and you get him back. Guys, even if you go 1-3, look, they're 4-2. They should be able to manage going 1-3. You're still 5-5 with 7 to go.
It's irrelevant anyway. He can't play.
Well, we don't know. No, I'm operating under the assumption that the doctors could say, shut him down for 4 weeks. And by shut him down, I mean shut him down.
No, but what I'm saying is whether debating whether shutting him down and what their record's going to be is irrelevant, because the idea that he can play at any kind of a winning level in the next 4 weeks is ridiculous.
Right.
And what's going to happen if they don't put him on IR? You're right, they should put him on IR. What's going to happen is he's going to convince them to play again because he's a player.
Right. That's why I like the IR option. That takes that off the table.
I just don't think they're going to do it.
Obviously, they feel he can be back within the 4 weeks, or they would.
They thought that once, and they were dead wrong.
Well, and everyone wants to keep blaming Kevin and Andrew for this. It goes a little higher than that, guys. Like, there's someone else writing the checks who wants to see him out there too.
Trust me, he's not out of our bullseye.
So everyone says, I can't believe Kevin keeps running him out there. I can't believe Andrew wants to play him.
Do you have some sort of information?
No, not this time. But I know with Baker, it was all ownership.
Sure.
Like, ownership was one pushing him out there. And
Wait
again,
so you're saying Jimmy made Stefanski play Baker?
I'm saying ownership.
Baker wanted to play.
I'm saying ownership wanted to see Baker on the field because they had to make a decision on whether or not to pay him.
Right.
And I've said that 100 times.
Yeah.
They had to decide what they were going to do with the contract. Are we going to pay this guy or not? And he got hurt the second game of the season. So based on the information they had up until that point, they weren't going to pay him. They wanted to see another year out of him. That's part of the reason why he kept playing.
That's what dumb owners do.
But now, in my opinion, you have to protect the asset because you have him under control.
Yeah, there's
all
a
that
key
money.
difference.
So there's two ways to look at this. I've got all this money invested in him. I want him out there. Or I've got all this money invested in him. We have to protect the asset, shut him down.
Yeah.
And it seems to be they're doing run him out there more than protect the asset at this point.
I think a lot of people are conflating two different things. One is, if he goes out there, is he too hurt? Is the pain too great that he can't play? And the other one is, even if he doesn't feel it's hurt, he still can't effectively throw the football.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can't effectively throw the football, it doesn't matter if you sit him a whole year. Like, if he comes back and it doesn't hurt and he can't complete 5 to 10 yard passes, that does you no good. He does neither one of you good.
It's really a worst case from the sense of if it was a Nick Chubb injury. If he blew out his knee, had to have surgery, he's done for the year.
Out of sight, out of mind.
And now, okay, what do we do going forward? We know Deshaun's not an option.
Right.
There is so much ambiguity with this, and there's so much of
they don't know how to act.
It puts him in a really difficult spot
let me ask you
because
this,
you don't want to put him on IR if he can be back for that fourth game.
I wonder if the doctors actually think there's an ambiguity here, or if this is just football people turning it into that.
I mean, if the doctor said,
or Jimmy Haslam turning it into that.
I have to believe if the doctor said shut him down, put him on IR, they would.
Yeah, and the reason that I'm just a little concerned about the doctor side of it is originally he was cleared to play in the game, the Baltimore game after Tennessee. That's somewhat troubling to me, particularly now that this injury has.
That part of it doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense at all to me, but we do know that he was cleared. He was told by team doctors, you're good to go.
Yeah.
I want to, before we move on from this topic, I want to question all of you guys, and Jay, I'll start with you. Everything has a clock to it. Mm-hmm. There's a window. Mm-hmm. And we saw what the Rams did with their trade, and they went all in, and they got the Super Bowl.
Yep.
So now fans just have to understand that there's going to be a period of uncompetitive, not competitive football.
It actually is not true.
No, they're doing
Rams
very
are pretty
well.
good.
You know how you can dig yourself out of that mistake? Find
Puka
Nacua in the fifth round.
And that's why I
almost
never
sixth
worry
round.
about the cap, because smart teams with smart GMs can find players to make up for the guys who
We don't have
go.
that track record here.
We
so
don't.
we can't lean on that.
Yeah.
But my question to you, Jay, as they're looking at, because the ownership and even general manager and head coach to a certain extent have to look at the broader picture moving out. What is the window of opportunity to really be a Super Bowl contender? Is that window still on the upside, or has it hit its peak and is now beginning to close? Because that's what it does. It opens, it closes. Right. It opens, it closes. So if they think that it's at its peak or it's on its way down, you can understand the urgency to do it this year.
Right.
Because you almost can't push it off all the way to next year if you think that because of the cap and because of the lack of
But if he
draft
can't
picks,
play, he can't play.
I know, but I'm asking Jay, do you think that is playing into the equations here and they're feeling like it's urgent, it's got to be this year because the window is at its peak now?
No, I don't think they feel that way because that's why they're protecting this $34 million that they have to roll over to next year. Where if you felt like this is it, then you just exhaust the $34 million now, and then whatever happens next year happens. And I think they're trying to be proactive and roll some of this over. But there are going to be, I'll go back to what Joe Burrow said. If I'm on the team, our window's open. Right. And you have to feel that way if you have a franchise quarterback. Now, obviously, Deshaun hasn't really demonstrated that since he's been here. But you would like to say, theoretically, the window's 3 more years because Deshaun's under control for 3 more years. But I don't know realistically.
If he does at some point play back at the level we hope he does,
then you have
it will be open for those years.
Does it change because you've been pretty optimistic that he is going to return in.
I'm not as confident right now.
Houston, Deshaun.
This is the least confident I've been.
Okay.
Yes.
G?
My confidence is taking a hit because of everything going into it. Like, I was talking to Mikey the other day. A lot of people don't realize that, there's a lot of things that go into being who you are. And I think a lot of people in our fan base, because we've taken L's so much, we're dismissive about the actual life things that go on in a player's life to a point where they may never play the way they played before.
Right.
If you think about it, I mean, when you go through all these changes, he got here, you got to realize Browns didn't draft him. So usually when you draft somebody, there's a cachet that comes with it because we took you. You were one of our own.
But really, if you think about what they gave up to get him, it was way more than a draft pick.
But
they're way more into this guy than just one draft pick.
But here's the thing: that's the organization. We're talking about the fan base,
right?
So you win
the fan base over by winning games.
So here's the thing: if you've already been suspended and you ain't been on the field, right?
Yeah.
If you already came with the allegations and the fans are kind of upset about that, you only played 3 games. You only played one of the games well this year, so your play isn't all that great. And now you're day to day with an injury.
So
you're
not winning them over.
So you're not winning. Actually, you done lost some people.
Sure.
Because we're just seeing you play and you hurt.
Mike, I know you got to read. I want to ask one question of Jason that I think is pertinent, and you're the guy to answer it. Deshaun was asked some pretty crazy questions this week. Like, are you divorcing the Browns? You want to divorce the Browns?
Yeah.
Like I thought that was like a little aggressive, but he did try to dispel the notion that there's 2 camps and there's factions. Is there, in your mind? Do you feel that there's any friction right now between teammates and Deshaun, management and Deshaun, or Deshaun to teammates and Deshaun to management?
I don't have any evidence to say yes that there is. I'm sure that there's. I said frustration a couple weeks ago and everyone went nuts. I'm sure from his vantage point, I'm sure there's a lot of frustration right now because he said yesterday, I worked my ass off to get back. I worked so hard to get back and now I have this injury.
Right.
So I don't know that it's divided lines, and it will. I watched it with LeBron and the Cavs. It does get to that point where there's a clear break, and they're over here and they're over here.
He's unmovable, though.
No, he is, and I don't think it's at that point. I don't think. Maybe something changes. Maybe that answer changes in 3 months or 6 months. But yeah, he's not going anywhere because of that contract. They can't. It's literally impossible to move him because of the dead cap hit right now. If they did try to do something with him, so he's not going anywhere. If anything. They're clearing out the Brown side of it because he's going to be here. But I don't think it's at that point. I don't think it's. But I do think, sort of what G was saying, he's had, and every time I say this, I preface it with,
some of it's self-inflicted.
Yes, but the emotional that he's been through and the mental that he's been through the last couple of years, and then to be able to finally get back on the football field and do what you love, and now to not play up to your standard, and now to have this injury on top of it. And for the first time, it is like he was beloved at Clemson. He was beloved in the NFL.
Yeah.
And he went from that to public enemy number 1. He is the number 1 villain in the NFL. And for whatever reason, he just feeds into it because he seeks it out on social media.
Well, he said yesterday
he said that. I see it all.
Everything.
And that's the worst thing he could do.
I agree.
It just makes it worse. So I have no doubt he's not in a good space right now just because of everything he's already been through and everything that's now happening to him. It's a tough situation
It's a
for him.
real mental test,
Absolutely.
for sure.
Yeah.
And I'm glad you brought up the social media stuff because we touched on the show yesterday. I just think he needs to unplug.
I said that, yeah.
What good comes from you
Just delete
seeing all the criticism and all the darts? Tune that out.
Yeah.
Do what you do and make your number one priority has to be returning to Houston, Deshaun.
He has to somehow find a way to find peace.
Yes.
And LeBron, I'm not comparing Deshaun to LeBron, but LeBron went through this when he went to Miami, and he became the villain.
He tried to embrace being the villain.
And it didn't work.
Fail.
He loves to be loved. He needed to be loved. It lasted for 1 year, and he's like, I can't do this. And eventually, he got it all back.
Yeah, but it's going to be Deshaun will never be loved.
Yeah,
this is
maybe
much
in
different.
Cleveland if he plays well. He's never going to be loved outside of
He
Cleveland.
takes his team to a Super Bowl. It fixes everything here.
Here, yeah.
No one
And who
talks
cares about national?
Nobody talks about Kobe. Nobody talks about Ben and all the stuff that they've been
Winning
through.
erases a lot of stuff.
But he's still in the muck right now.
Yeah,
he's not even starting the climb yet.